We're reviewing a movie.
Yeah, we are.
Hey guys, Mike Cruz here, Dave Lacey. We got the chance to see American Ultra.
I really loved it. I went into the movie hoping that it would be good, knowing that Max Landis wrote it and, Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart. But I gotta be honest, it was way cooler than I thought it would be. I was expecting a sort of stoner comedy like Pineapple Express, and it felt a lot more like The Long Kiss Goodnight, of all things.
It was a sort of like a fast-paced action comedy that happened to have characters who were stoners. It was not a stoner comedy, and I think it's being marketed really heavily as a stoner comedy. And if you're going into this like looking for kind of the action version of what's
like Half Baked or something.
Yeah, like Half Baked or Dude, Where's My Car? Then you're not gonna you are probably gonna enjoy this movie, but for completely different reasons.
Basically, you got these characters, and you find out Jesse Eisenberg is a sleeper agent because of MK Ultra type stuff, and then he gets a bunch of guys after him. I think what I really loved about this movie is it's extremely violent, but like in a kind of funny way, almost like that last Rambo movie. Like there's blood everywhere.
To me, it had the action feel of something like Scott Pilgrim, but if everybody like gushed blood and their limbs exploded every time that their face got punched off. So it's kind of a big Max Landis moment right now with American Ultra coming out this weekend. The trailer for Victor Frankenstein came out this week, and that looks like a really interesting take on that story. And it was announced this week too that his other movie that he wrote, Mr. Right, is closing the Toronto Film Festival. There's all of this avalanche of Max Landis' stuff, but at the end of the day, he's the writer, and so how are his ideas and his words going to be executed? And this director had only directed Project X before.
Yeah.
And Project X is fine. But you weren't tricked into going to see something you weren't. It was literally like if you saw the trailer and then you went to see Project X, you just saw a long version of the trailer.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I was a little bit like, I wonder how this movie is going to come out, and I think it was still very tight. It was really...
Yes.
All the performances were really strong.
Yes.
Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart were perfectly cast.
They were.
And they nailed those roles.
They did.
Connie Britton and Tony Hale and their banter and the CIA side of things was also really good. She nailed the, like, kind of exaggerated verbal diarrhea that Max Landis writes really well.
Yeah.
To me, the weakest link was Topher Grace.
Okay, you know what the problem is with Topher Grace in this movie? I think everyone else is actually pretty nicely fleshed out, and they're slightly more three-dimensional. I felt like he was a little more one-dimensional. He was just, I'm a bad guy, and there wasn't a lot of reasoning for it.
And I'm okay with... I'm okay in a Bourne comedy, right? With there just being like, I'm the bad guy because I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
But he didn't pull it off convincingly.
I also want to say I thought Walton Goggins was amazing in this movie. I'm a big fan of his. I really liked him in Justified, and he's been a great character actor, but he plays this great kind of messed up assassin going after them the entire time, and he had some really nice moments, and I think that's what is great about this movie. I think it succeeds where I felt Pineapple Express sort of failed. I think Pineapple Express is fine for that kind of like sophomore comedy, but there wasn't really much to it other than like a few like weed and fart jokes, when I feel like this movie, there's like actual moments between the two main characters that are like really like heartwarming and pleasant, and there's moments where it feels like this sort of indie movie about these two young kids in love, and then it becomes like Jason Bourne, and it just had some really nice moments that I wasn't expecting, frankly.
Some movies do really, really well by doing one thing extremely well.
Yes.
But there's a lot of movies who try to be a lot of bits and pieces of everything. Potentially just because there's so many filmmakers that grew up seeing so many things, and they're trying to put all their favorites into one big package. This had a little bit of stoner comedy, a little bit of action, a little bit of like romantic comedy and indie romance movie. A lot of times when people try to shove all those things into a movie, it's a f***ing mess.
I agree.
Whereas this one... everything served the story, and so everything was really balanced out, and everything naturally led into the other thing, and that made it all works.
It's as much of a stoner comedy too as it's like a comedy about like living in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, living in just like the middle of America. You know, even stuff down to like Kristen Stewart's like ridiculously bad hair dye. Like the dye job is not like a professional, like she's playing a redhead in this movie. She looks like a girl who just dyed her hair from supermarket dye and it looks super bad. And I love that. It felt like, you know.
Makes her really hot.
It really does. It really does. She looks great in this movie. But there's a certain like verisimilitude to this movie I just really love. I felt like it was real, even though there was absurd stuff like, you know, Jesse Eisenberg killing everybody with stuff he finds in a supermarket.
Yeah. The one thing I also have to applaud that we don't talk a lot about is the editing.
Yeah.
I have to say that this movie was probably elevated to a even better point by how well edited it was. The action moved quick, but it wasn't nauseating. It wasn't like, it was very fast cutting and probably to cut around like stunt doubles and things, but it didn't make you want to vomit. It has the trope of like the Bourne sleeper agent movie where it has to kind of jump into his brain and do the memory download thing. And it's the best I've ever seen it done.
It is, yeah.
The editing kept everything very tight and moved everything along, but was just really interesting and really well done. So overall, we really recommend that this weekend you go
really
to a movie theater and you see American Ultra.
Yeah.
Do not wait for it on DVD or Blu-ray. Go to a movie theater and see it. In the meantime, subscribe to Cinefix for more awesome movie content. Like this video if you like things, and let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below.
Nice work.
I'm gonna go smoke pot now.
All right, let's go do it.